Mr. Cook starts, we have 4 legislators in the room, and I think that's pretty incredible. We do something in January, you may not know this, we've done this for 12 years now, where our commissioners come in and sit with us in January like this, and we share with them what our local budget requests are going to be. And for 11 of those 12 years, we've not had to change that from January all the way to May when we've done a formal request. And one time we changed it, it was for the good, as the commissioners put enough money to raise the classified employees 1.5% supplement, which was not in the January presentation. So I think we've had some good times here with meetings like this. We did this meeting back before the pandemic, we got away from it. So I just think it's pretty incredible that all 4 legislators are here, because one legislator had told me last night was not going to be able to be here and walks in. So it tells me, you know, something changed and got here, so this is on your schedule, and we appreciate you valuing it, all 4 of it. So, Mr. Cook, I'll let you go ahead, and then we'll go with some introductions. We're live stream, so just know that as well. So.
We certainly appreciate you coming out, all of you. Like I said, we did this before COVID shut this down, and it was always helpful, and we were able to give a lot of input from the school system, the public school system, and we thought you guys something you'd like to hear, and you guys have always been helpful, and certainly appreciate you guys doing this. And I'll have to say, if you notice, Mr. Biggs is sitting over here. He missed us. And he said, can I just feel like I'm home one more time? I want to sit down beside a couple of my old board member friends. So if you wonder why he's not, you know, but trust me, he is still Mr. Biggs, like you're used to, like you guys have know him, I'm sure, because we were out coming in, and Miss Farlow, excuse me, he was considered Miss Petty when he did this. He blew right by me out there, didn't say anything, and went right to Sharon, went right Petty on me, boom. Hey Sharon, put his arm around her. But anyway.
Hey, you did win the election.
That's it. Oh, I knew he would go. I knew he would go. Some things never change, I mean.
Hey, Mr. Cutler, please do not get up and leave without somebody.
I want to share a quick, really to lighten it up before we get started. Okay, so right before, the month before COVID came, okay? If you notice in Raleigh, I'm sure you see Mr. Biggs, he's always has hand sanitizer. He's the cleanest man I know, okay? So here we are, one night, Mr. Cutler and myself, we all went out, and we all bought hand sanitizer, baby wipes, all this stuff, and we had a room full of people, and right at his name, you had all this stuff stacked up, like hand sanitizer. And you know what? We didn't know the next month all heck was going to break loose. You couldn't find hand sanitizer, couldn't find anything like that. Heck, he had a 3 months supply of this product. Yeah, we tried to buy it back. But anyway, we're going to start off with just going around the room, and start over here with Senator Craven. Just introduce yourself.
It's good to be here with everybody. Press this, there we go. Always happy to be in the room with folks around here. We appreciate what y'all do. Dave Craven, my Senate district is part of Randolph, most of Randolph, Montgomery, Richmond, Anson, and a small piece of Union County that goes around the road. I do chair the Finance Committee in the Senate, and I look forward to having a good discussion with everybody today. Thank you.
Sharon Farlow, School Board Member.
Shannon Whitaker, School Board Member.
Atlanta Ashford, Executive Director of Administrative Services for Students and Driver Education.
Andrea Foxworth, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Taylor Bashir, Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction and 6-8 Director.
Bill Jackson, just want y'all to know that we appreciate you having us in, and appreciate what you do. We don't say thank you enough. I've said it numerous times, when they're passing out rewards in heaven, those that work with our children are going to be at the front of the line, and those that run our mouth are probably going to be at the back of the line. And so just every one of you, know that we appreciate you, and we don't say it enough, we don't pay enough, we get that, but we're incredibly grateful for you.
I'm Amy Gailey. I'm Senator, represent Alamance County and a piece of Randolph across the top, the northern precincts across
Randolph County. I was Alamance County Commissioner for 4 years and Chair for 3 of those years. And I was liaison to the Alamance Burlington School System. So I attended their work session and regular session every month. Gave me a good background in local school issues. And then last session, I was chair of the Education Committee. This year, I am chair of the Health Committee. So I continue to be really interested in education issues. I really appreciate the invitation to be here today, and I look forward to hearing more about what's going on in Randolph County.
I'm Marty Trotter, Finance Officer.
Philip Lanier, School Board Member, and I want to say thank you for y'all coming out. I can't think of another meeting I've ever been in that we've got people representing from the state being here. We can actually talk to, you get a first-hand account of what's going on. We appreciate that.
Larry Chilton, Executive Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Transportation.
Dale Brinkley, Executive Director of Operations.
It's me again, Gary Cook, Board Chair.
Todd Cutler, School Board Member.
Brian Biggs, and obviously you guys are family. When I walk in here, I definitely feel at home, and I do appreciate each and everything that you guys do. And you guys, a lot of you, I speak to you all the time. I've been down to Raleigh, and you guys still help me tremendously with the insight. And I had to go to Raleigh where I could become education chair, because I couldn't be chair right now. I went to Raleigh, and I became chair. I became the chair this year. I love Gary. Move on.
I'm Fred Burgess. I'm a board member and Brian's cousin. And the reason he can't be board chair here is because we do know him.
We gotta get it.
I am Sheena Creech. I'm the Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction and the Director of Digital Teaching and Learning.
So we've got other staff here, obviously Beverly and Amber, our Public Information Officer, Amber Ward, and Beverly Fowler, Executive Assistant, and other staff and directors in the room. I just want to kind of put maybe some guardrails or parameters on today. So what we're trying to do today is have some conversation, share with you some information about our state budget concerns. There are concerns. Obviously, you're dealing with a bunch of school systems and a bunch of things at the state level. If you have questions, we'll try our best to answer them, but probably above all that is to take another step. Because I think we'll always be taking steps to try to build a relationship with you that's positive, based on trust and transparency. So want to share with you some information that you may not know about our school system. It may give you some information to help as decisions are made budget-wise. Some needs we have. And I want to say this, nothing I share today, I'm going to give you a piece of paper in a minute. It's got some items I will walk through with you. But this is not anybody's wrong. But we also feel like if you don't know, you can't help. So I'm going to start out with, we have a big business here. You may not know this. I just want to show you some numbers. Anybody have any idea what that number represents? That's what it costs the Randolph County School System to have one day of school. Inside of that number sits this number. Anybody know what that number might be? That's what it costs to have one day of lunch in the Randolph County School System. There's the number of miles of buses we drive per day. And we're going to hit transportation in a minute, but I want to show you some things about transportation. We spend $16,000 per day on transportation before we pay the first salary for anybody in transportation. This is going to be an area. That's a 7 right there. I was a math teacher, but I'll try to make my 7 look better. Here's one for you. We buy 7,400 gallons of diesel gas every 3 days. So every 3 days, when we talk about transportation funding, this is huge to us, and it should be huge to any other school system in North Carolina and probably in the country. Every 3 days, we're spending right now $17,834 on diesel gas. And that's if we get it for $2.41. If it goes up more than that, who knows where we are. This is, every 3 days, this is going out the door. Every day, this is going out the door. So when you hear us sometimes get stirred up about numbers and cost, there's two types of people. There's people who talk about problems and concerns and don't follow up on them. There's other people who do the research and try to figure them out and share. And that's what we're going to always try to do. So when you see those numbers, I'll give you 3 other numbers to think about. There's 3 numbers. I'd love to have those, I'd love to have that with us, because right there, that's north of 2.5 million, probably rounds off to 2.7 million. I get it. I get it. Stephen, if the kids aren't with you, you shouldn't keep them on. Okay, I get it. But this is a big business. And every time we lose a kid to a charter school, we lose $1,541 in local. And we don't get the state money, but that's going to go with it. This is the amount of money that goes to regular charters that are brick and mortar in our county, which is only one. There's only one. It's been here for 12 years. It's here to stay. Here's one for you. This is the amount of Randolph County tax dollars that go out of the county to brick and mortar charter schools in other counties. Last year it was $358,000. And then right here is the amount of money that we send local money to the 2 state virtual charters. So I would love to have all this back some way, shape, or form, but Stephen also understands that he doesn't have those kids. But sometimes people say, well, why do you spend time talking about that? Well, it's not one for $1, and I don't think this has ever been explained very much. When we lose about 24 kids to a charter school, or 2 charter schools, Marty, we got a whole list. We have about 30 charters that pull from us. The biggest is URA, the second biggest is Chatham Charter. When we lose about 24 kids, the state pulls a position from us. But they could have come from 24 different schools or 24 different classrooms, so which is the unlucky classroom or unlucky school that loses their teacher that year? You can't do it. So that's why we've been very fortunate that our commissioners fund something called charter school growth. Because it's not one for $1. But we have to have something to survive that 24 that we're eating. Also, sometimes what people don't see is when a kid's in a private or a homeschool and they come by, they have one of our addresses, decide to go to a charter school, they come by and pick up $1,541 from us that we didn't have to begin with because they were never on our records. So there's a second budget cut we did. So just give you some numbers there if we start today, as you start thinking and planning out when you're working through budgets. I want you to see some of those numbers. Now, I also want you to know this. I'm pretty concerned. So I'll tell you our budget themes, and Marty, worked with Marty a long time, I had a finance officer for the first 11 years. Todd Lowe, he retired, Marty came back. Been very fortunate. But one of the things we do with budgets every year, just so you know, is we try to drive our budget down from one year to the next, particular work with the commissioners. And we keep it where it is, we'll drive it low. And if we can't, we try to keep it in a similar reasonable range. I don't believe in throwing stuff over the wall and seeing if it sticks. because it may stick one year and you may go 5 without an additional any increase. You gotta work in a position where people who control funding can be successful too. So that's what today's about. How can we give you some information that can make you successful too as legislators? So I want to share with you a piece of paper, and I've got about 30 copies, so there's enough for this table and maybe some from back there. I want to share with you some budget concerns, and I'm going to walk through them with you, because I hope that there's some things that maybe some information today can help you with as you're working in Raleigh. So, any questions about these numbers so far? That was just a little bit of a picture of, we're a pretty big business. And I think y'all know, if we cancel school for weather, not everybody agrees with that. They also don't agree if we cancel school late and the tornado flows through. They don't agree with that either. So we got a lot of things. We also have to be careful when we cancel school, because we know it may be a chance, it may take away a chance for a child to eat. So the first thing on your list, just going to kind of walk you through, not going to get too much, but I wanted you to have something to leave with. Technology funding. If you ask me any day of the week, what are the 3 biggest funding concerns you have with state funding? I would say sexual children, technology, and transportation. And if you look, that's not in any order, but they're the first 3 on the list. So, technology. You may not know this, Mr. Biggs. Remember last year I came down to see you at the legislative building about this time, maybe a little bit earlier. I'm rounding this off, but in 09-10, the Randolph County school system received $646,000 plus for technology money. That's 09-10. And it dropped. And then in 16-17, this is not on your list, it popped back up to $645,000. And I thought, okay, we're going back the other way. I mean, rightfully so. I think our technology needs are way more now than they were back in 09-10. And there's 2 funds on there. There's state connectivity and state technology. That's 2 funds. Well, this year, what is this? 24, 25. We're down to $231,000 in technology funding. So that's an area. I can't explain that one, nor am I totally sure you know that's happened. Okay? And you've got the previous years before this, it's $415,000, $418,000. These are the kind of things we track, because we have to plan accordingly. So technology is an area that we really, if we could have some attention, it would help. The problem is when you have these things occur, they start impacting other budgets. Like I was on a meeting the other day, and we had this person doing this great presentation. It sounded great. It sounded really good for some things we need to be doing. I sent a text to one of my colleagues who's on the same meeting, and I said, where's the money coming for this? So, when we start having to deal with technology like we did, that makes things tough. So, we get some special allotments. I think he sees April over this. Exceptional children. We get special allotments in exceptional children, ESL, CTE. Okay? But for years, well before my time, this school system had to take positions that aren't EC positions and put in EC to make the program go. So this year we have 13 non-EC positions in EC, which comes to the tune of about $1,002,001. One of the things I've always asked the finance officer, once we get school going, I'll say, okay, tell me what the average cost of position is. Now, I will tell you, I just did it Thursday, Audra was with me. I'm glad the cost is going up because you're working on their benefits, you're working on their retirement, you're making sure they're taken care of. You're working on salaries. I got it. Because it was $55,000 probably my first year here. Might even been lower than that. Now it's at $77,077 as the average cost of a teacher. And it's, might vary from one school system to another because of our local supplement's not what other people's is, and ours is better than them. Fuss about class size, I'm thinking, wow, if I could have had those 13 positions to put in non-EC areas, that would have helped. Another thing that's going on that you may not see this is not on your sheet, but a thing called contract services. So we use contract services to hire people that we can't find, like physical therapists, occupational therapists. We can't find them, but we need them in the EC world. So that was $1 million and 5 years ago, and this year, this is it's right at 2.3 million. So that eats up our budget. Okay? 5 years, we've gone up 1.3 million in contract services, which means we're hiring people, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists. We can't find to hire in our positions. We have to do contracts with these groups. So you compound this with a 1.3 million growth, and you can see where our EC budget is very difficult. So here's what's going to happen come the end of June. The last two budgets that are closed in the Randolph County school systems every year, which one closes first, EC or transportation? Just a matter of which one closes first. Sometimes transportation does, sometimes EC does. No rhyme or reason. I don't know that finance officers just don't each year go back and forth to see how long they can keep me at bay. I don't know. I don't think that was a joke, but you're not laughing. But at any rate, so you can see those two. You see evidence of where EC and technology is. Now transportation, one of the things you may not see, I'll just tell you, I don't have an answer for it other than it needs to be looked at. The transportation funding formula does not work. It works for more urban areas than it does rural. It's based on efficiency. So if I'm picking up a child every 5 feet, I'm going to be very efficient. If I send the bus out at 4:51 a.m. and I ride all the way out and then pick up the first kid, but I got to leave at 4:51 a.m. to come back, that's not very efficient, but we do that because they're our kids. They're our communities and adults. But here's something that takes our transportation budget in the hole every year. So we have contract transportation. It may be for homeless students, it may be for foster students, it may be for EC situations. We have a little program we call Social Emotional Learning Program that we use for elementary, that we provide transportation, but I can tell you, the amount we spend on that is housed in New Market Elementary. The amount we spend on that does not come close to the other areas, homeless, foster, and EC. These are the last 3 years. The amounts, not counting this year, we haven't got there, but 432,000, 786,000, 1,070,000. It just continues to rise. And this is when have you ever heard of having to use cab transportation? These are special transportation when we have to do something special for someone, like maybe a homeless student's going back to their school of origin, so we have to bring them all the way across the county because that's where their school of origin was, and they have a right because it's their school of origin. So this is what really eats up our transportation. This is the unknown. This is the one that both finance officers I've had with me, this is the one that if we could get some help there. We've had a little bit of help. There's been a couple of years where there's been 100,000, there's been 90,000, especially when we had the extra money. But a little bit of help there would really help us from having to go get other budget areas now. But that's the one that stands out, transportation. That's the one we can't control. Now, granted, so the efficiency formula, I said that earlier, broken may not be the right word, but something's not working there. We're always the deficit with transportation. We are continually putting more and more local money into transportation. And then at the end of the day, like I say, the items 2 and 3 on that report are, or that document, items 2 and 3, end of the day, are the ones we close last. And that is not, I just think that's an issue that needs to be in the middle of the table, in the middle of the floor, and it needs to be addressed. We've been asking for it for years. But I also worry, now I would tell you this, legislature, I worry about the first time it gets addressed, if it's not completely done, we could wind up losing and be in worse shape. I got that. So it's not a, hey, let's go get in a room and fix it overnight. This is a bigger issue, but I've been in a very urban system. I've been in one, I joke and say, it's not, if you're not picking up a kid every 5 feet, or every block, you're getting behind. That is the truth. If you see buses leaving a campus that are half or 3/4 full, and it's not because, we have 139 yellow buses. And when I first got here, we had 162 buses. Wendy Anderson, there's nobody better than Wendy Anderson than transportation director. But we have trying to get more and more efficient. We've cut 23 buses out of our fleet. But you can't do it so much when you're in a big rural county. And we're driving all over. I mean, Randolph County is one of the biggest geographic size counties in the state. But if you see a bus leaving campus after school, and they are half full or 3/4 full, you can go ahead and put a mark down. They're falling behind funding-wise. That is not efficient. But sometimes, and I'm not trying to make the rural system stand out and say we're not being treated unfairly. I'm just saying the way it's, sometimes there's nothing else the school system can do. Just like that bus that runs out at 4:51 in the morning to get kids from Bennett. They've got to go out there. And we've done some exercise with transportation just so our principals and our administrators see the routing issues. So transportation is something that has not seemed to get anywhere. And yes, I mean, I get it, gas prices don't help. Gas prices don't help cars when you're driving your own car. Our transportation group called on about 3 or 4 years ago that there was a trouble during the pandemic, people were having trouble getting tires. Our group called into that. They really went to work getting tires in so we wouldn't wind up in that with bus tires without having them. But so I just want you to know that, and that's it. There were some real good relief could come if there's anything can be done with contract transportation. Now, the reality is you can't control contract transportation anymore. For the longest time, correct if I'm wrong, Larry and Marty, we had one cab company that we used. The only one we could use. We don't have one. Now we have 3. Okay, so it's helping us a little bit. But when you take a kid from one side of the county to the other in Randolph, get in your car and ride from John Lawrence to Southeast Middle, and you'll think you've gone through 3 counties. Or ride from John Lawrence or Trinity Middle to Coleridge. And when you get on 42, just know when you curve back to the left, your phone's going out. If you got somebody you don't want, if they're yelling at you, get to the curb and it'll cut them off. So transportation is a big thing. And so I'm trying to, what nuggets? You can't address everything in EC. You can't address everything in technology. Or in transportation, but what could you? Could you look at contract transportation? I don't know. I mean, I hear we're talking bus drivers and salaries, and we've done something, our board did something, we've got a little plan trying to incentivize bus drivers, y'all done some stuff for bus driver salaries. We appreciate all of that. This is not anybody's doing something wrong. Again, this may be right underneath you, and you didn't even know this was going on. Those are pretty big jumps. Just like when I had over here the contract services for EC, to jump in 5 years, $1.3 million. Because we can't control, one year we had some situations coming, we had to hire a bunch of extra nurses. And we didn't know that was going to happen. We learned it right as school was starting. So, want to jump to any questions about any of those 3 areas? Anything stand out there?
Dr. Gaines, I got one question. The technology fees, I know during COVID, we found out that we were lacking, and we went and used the ESSER money to to buy the laptops, get the one-to-one technology. What is the timeline on those? I know, I'm not sure exactly how many years. Is it 4 years? before they have to be refurbished. And I know we use a lot of extra money to catch up, to get the students, because we had students that didn't have technology.
I'm really proud of the staff, and it has nothing to do with the superintendent. Nothing to do with the superintendent, other than about 8 or 9 years ago, we had a meeting, and I told Nan York and Sheena, we were walking in, I said, I'll be breaking that news. We're going to Chromebooks. We can't afford the $2,100 docking station anymore, which was the computer, the dock, keyboard, and the monitor. So, Mr. Biggs, you couldn't ask a better question for me to be at. I'm really proud of what our staff's done. We have about 13,000, and I have a wonderful staff. So, this is how your superintendent knows it, because you got staff that bring it to you and want to have the conversation. We got about 13,371 Chromebooks that are scheduled to go out of warranty 2029. The problem is the networking and the hardwire and all might go out before the Chromebook goes out. We have scheduled out so much stuff. We buy computers on 3-year warranty. And what I say to people is when 3 years comes up, we're in no man's land, because we don't know if we can find the parts, and if we can find them, if something happens, can we afford them? Because every year they're past that window. So we've got these scheduled for 2029, and we've got some more scheduled for 2031. So that's where our forecast looks like. But we'll be there in no time. But the concern, we just had this conversation today. The concern is inside of this. Will a computer outlast all the other connectivity pieces? But you're right. If we hadn't had ESSER and we hadn't had some of the visionaries that were in the technology world in our system, sometimes people get upset with us because, Dave Craven's the principal, and he wants to order 30 Chromebooks. And we say, hold on. We're not ordering them yet. We're waiting for a bulk order. I will tell you this. We paid this for a Chromebook for about 6 years running, because we refused to move until we could have a bulk order go out. And right now, if this isn't pretty incredible from staff's work, I keep pointing at Sheena because it's her staff, Rena and Tom. So right now, we're buying 2 versions of Chromebooks, and one is this and one is that. So here we are 10 years later, and we've continued to work that to be not more than $100 more. I'm pretty proud of that. That's where, one of the things you'll hear me say is we're going to use public money wisely at all times. What concerns me about this business is this. Times change. And I've yet, in 12 years as superintendent, or 12 years and 9 months, the interim gig I did in nearby system, I struggle with where can you go with some of the new initiatives without handcuffing something you can't afford to take away. Okay? You can't drive off here for 30 kids when you're going to leave 300 behind. That's not what our job was. Our job was to take all 15,000 with us, put them all in a position to be successful. So I'm pretty proud of that, Mr. Biggs. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I was worried about the shortfall, because I know we're going to have to refurbish them, and with the current technology money, how is that going to affect?
Well, we'll eventually get to a ledge, or a cliff. I mean, so you can see where we are. Yeah, but we'll be here in no time. Before you know it, blink your eye, you'll be here. But there's also a part about can the Chromebook outlast some of the other pieces of technology network that we don't need to run out on. But this is where, when I talk to you about 13 EC positions, talk about having to pull from the place with transportation, contract transportation. We don't have a choice with contract transportation. We got to do it. Okay? You start pulling from other places to fill out those budgets, and you're pulling even more away from the technology. So now let's just go one other place. CTE. If I went back to the classroom, I love teaching math. I was a high school math I'd be hard pressed not to want to be a CTE teacher, because it's hard to do the curriculum and get to the application and get through the curriculum. It's just hard. It is. So, career technical education, probably the hottest item there is in public school right now. I mean, you name it, you name the kid, they're in it. They want those pathways, they love it. There's a reason they love it, because they go to that sit and get classroom, and those teachers are doing all kinds of things too. So it's not sit and get, and then they go to these other classrooms and they get to do metals, and they get to learn masonry and construction and business and Adobe. I know David's probably back there going, he's going to call the program something CTE. David Cross, our CTE director. No one's got a better CTE director than we have, I'll tell you that. Right now, but don't steal him from DGI, it's not going. But, so here's what a concern has been for a couple of years now with CTE. For probably 6 or 7 years, CTE gets their own allotment of positions. And for probably 6 or 7 years, I've had to put non-CTE positions into CTE to keep the programs afloat. And so I'll just tell you this. So it's 7.5 positions this year, and so this is what we have put into CTE during this school year, and we'll put the 50 cents on there just for a matter of principle. That's the amount of money, non-CTE money, we've had to put in CTE to keep it afloat. And I don't understand that one. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to get negative. But I've said if I was promoting North Carolina right now, I think I'd probably lead, as much as the high school math teachers might throw me out of the group. I think I'd probably lead with CTE. And all that's going on in CTE, because it's got all the kids. When I left being a high school principal in January of 2009, and I couldn't keep the kids out of the classes in. The foods classes, the waiting list was a mile long. Now, I never ate the kids' food when they offered to me. I knew better than that as principal, not to do that. But the business classes, I'd walk down the hall at my high school and there was like 4 classes, and it's like a business center. We had carpentry. We did not have auto mechanics. The school wasn't built for auto mechanics. We had a thing called aerospace. We had kids that learned how to fly airplanes. We had flight simulators. But this is concerning me because you got 7.5 positions of non-CTE in there. When is that going to be when we can't do it? Well, I can tell you right now, just to be very transparent with you, the year we can't do it is 25, 26. We've already had to share with Dr. Cross that I can't do the 7.5 position in the year. I can do some, not that many. And so David's now going to what I think is a world-class CTE program here, working with our high school principals, keeping the positive, keeping the focus. See, what you don't know in our original allotments, our allotment for next year is already being shaved back again, which is what caused this. But the other allotments are being shaved back. So, these are the things I don't know if you knew those. I'm going to skip to number 7 because I want you to see this on the back page. And this number, and all these numbers, these dollar figures are based on the average cost of a teacher, which is $77,077 in the school system this year. So ESL, we get a special ESL allotment, but we have 12 non-ESL positions in the ESL program to make it go. And there's another 924,000. So if you took that, and the first number I gave you for EC, I'd love to have all of that somewhere. But sometimes I'm afraid in our business things get moving so fast that we don't see it. And again, Mr. Biggs, Ms. Gage, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Crater, this is not this is just, I want you to see where we are, that's why, and we will keep doing this. I want you to see what we're seeing. Because you get down there and you get things put in front of you like crazy, right? Everybody wants something. I go to every commissioner meeting I can get to. Been doing that ever since my first year here. Because I thought I owed it to myself and to the school system to understand, and the commissioners, to understand what else they get hit with beyond our request every month. And I've learned a lot. I can tell you, people come to see them for requests. The number of groups back in 13, 14, 14, 15, to 24, 25, they're not in the same ballgame. It's total. So I know you get hit with things. So before we get out of the chute here, and Marty and Andrea, where are we at here? 32.5. And it pains Andrea and Marty. Andrea's been my HR person for what? Now 6 years. Andrea does a great job. She can't stand even bring it into me because she knows it's not going to make me feel good, her feel good, or Marty. Before we ever allot teachers out to the schools and the regular, just the regular non-CT, non-ESL, non-EC, before we ever get them out, we've pulled 32.5. Is that right, Andrea? Is that? So there's 32. That's a position per school in the Randolph County school system. You're going out, and you talk about ESSER. You know how we use our ESSER money? One of the things we did with ESSER was we thought we were supposed to get our arms around the kids as much as we could. So you may not know this, for 2 years, Andrea, and it didn't come from me, it came from staff. We're going to get these kids back in and get our arms around them. Let's give everybody an extra teacher position. We did that for 2 years. And we gave everybody, every elementary school, for 2.5 years, or 2 3/4 years, 2 extra TAs. Is that right?
Yes.
So here's that deficit in teacher positions right there. So I hate it because we just did a lot, Mr. Principal. Yeah, our numbers they're not growing yet. Like people think we will, and I think we will. But that's not anybody's lack of effort, lack of trying. But these things have held constant even with that. And that's a lot, because we want to keep these CTE programs, and we need to be following where the kids' interests are. If we've done public safety now. We have collision repair. We're sending kids. We're working as hard as we can with week. We're getting ready to pay for transportation for kids to go from one of our schools. Oh, that isn't a small bill. So that's why there's multiple things on that document. Because I don't know that you can do every one of them. I think there's 8 things. I don't think you can do all 8. Because you can't do it for Randolph and other places. But getting it out there is equally important. So, any questions about that? I'm going to go into, I got 3 other things I want to share with you today. And 2 of them really don't have anything to do with money. But I want to give you, unless y'all want to have something to do with money on it, we can. Well, they do have something to do with money, I'm sorry. One of them does. Maybe y'all do.
Dr. Gainey, if I
Yes,
could just
ma'am.
mention, with the EC funding, last year when I was working on appropriations for education, we were talking a lot about that topic. Y'all get a flat amount per child that's not correlated to the needs of the child. And so there's a lot of discussion in the Senate about how to rectify that, because you have some children that come in who need $20,000 a year worth of services, and then you have some that they just need extra time during a test or something. So that is a challenge that is recognized, and we're working on it.
Ms. Gailey, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because I was in a meeting in Salisbury, that Board of Superintendent meeting, I guess it was in January of '24, and they first shared outlook. And I appreciate that, because there was a year, I kid you not, there was a year where, and look, our job is to take care of everybody. Kids are supposed to be in our school system are our kids. Whatever their needs are, we need to take care of them. And I had a great opportunity to meet a child who we didn't know was coming. That was one particular year we had about 3 or 4 really special cases up here right before school started. And so I was at an event one night, and I can tell you what it was, but I don't want to identify the child. And I actually saw one of the children. And the mom just was telling me how welcome they had been by the school system. It had nothing to do with it, it had everything to do with the school staff. paying the EC staff. So I appreciate y'all looking at that. One thing I'm gonna caution you, because as I said around the table that day, they showed us what our numbers were gonna look like. Well, yeah, Stephen Gainey felt real good because based on what they'd already projected, we were gonna go up. But my colleague next to me was a first-year superintendent, and they were getting ready to go backwards. And look, I work for the Randolph County Board of Education. These are my bosses. I grew up at the coast. I love those people. People in Raleigh help raise me. People in Burlington help raise me. But I'm a North Carolina guy. And I'd love for us to get more funding, but I know it's got to work across the whole state.
Right,
So the
I
thing,
think there was a whole harmless
Yeah.
provision with that was discussed too, that you didn't want anybody to lose funding, but where more is needed, then there would be a way to adjust that.
that's what concerns me. I'm glad you said that because just like I said earlier, the transportation formula, yeah, we can all jump up and down and say it's got to be fixed and all, but it can't be fixed overnight because I guarantee if somebody rushes to fix it, somebody's going to wind up with a surprise they didn't want. Okay? So you hit the nail on the head. And I didn't hear that in that presentation. I'm not being critical, but it didn't come up. I think people were just, once the individual had the numbers, objective numbers, I mean, I know what everybody's heads were like, well, what's it look like? And I'll guarantee you, everybody in that room that was with me was not concerned about our gain as much as are we going backwards. So if there's gonna be a baseline, like a baseline per kid, that we don't go backwards per kid, and there's attention to the needs and the costs, now, what that costs the state, it's gonna cost some money, but it's the right thing to do for kids it is. So, anything else about that before we move on? All right, the next thing, you may not follow this a whole lot. I don't know how often it hits your table in the legislative building. I'll tell you what these numbers mean in a second. Now, this is something that's pretty near and dear to me. Because I'm told, when I was a principal, I used to tell my staff, and I'll forget what it's like to be a teacher and go to lunch. And I've told the principals more than one time, and I forget what it's like to be a principal on the board, because I'm not helping anybody. That doesn't mean I can forget what it's like to be a teacher. But I'm going to my next link, because I need them to be energized in their teachers. So, the principal salary schedule, I think, is number 5 on that list, is that right, Shane? So, you may not know this, and I brought y'all a copy. Short that way. You may not like something I say on this, but this is not anything other than I think this is an issue that's got to be addressed. It's not, again, it's not a negative, it's not a, someone did something on purpose to hurt people, but I think it is hurting families, and I think it's going to eventually hurt school systems if it hasn't already hurt. So, all right, so this salary schedule. All right, on the side here, it has school sizes. So every year in January, principal salary schedules are reset. And here's what you may not know is going on. If a principal goes from the middle column, the growth met column, back to the base column, their range of salary cut in the middle of the school year, which I don't think is even good at the end of the school year, $7,778 to $9,724. Okay, that's if they go from the middle column back to the left. Now, if they go from exceeded, the far third column, back to the middle column, exceeded back to met, based on the previous year's test scores, well, now it's based on 3 years of test scores. Best of 3, best 2 out of 3. It's where they get placed. They could have a salary cut that ranges very similar to that one. But now look at this one. What if they go from the third column back to the first column? That's a pretty big. So, I'm just going to tell you, I grew up in the home of a teacher, a principal. I grew up in the home of a principal who, best I can tell, there was like a 10-year freeze on principal salaries, way back. We never heard about that. We never heard that. My mom and dad didn't talk to us about stuff like that. They raised us and they took care of us. That's just not how, but I'm going to tell you, it's one thing not to get a raise. It's another thing to have this kind of money taken away from you in the middle of the year or even at the end. Also, you might get me a little heated on this. Because when this salary schedule came out, I got asked to come talk on a little television thing, and I went for our principals. And the other principal watching, because I wanted to know where I stood. I totally disagree. And the best I can tell, and I say this the best I can tell to anybody watching, I don't know of any other position in the state of North Carolina that's treated this way. So this, in my opinion, needs to be looked at. Because the only way to keep your people from losing, and eventually losing your people, because turnover is inevitable, you know, the great ones, they don't make a lot of noise, they just fade away. They see it and they get their test scores in September, they followed it, they see what's coming in January. Surprise, surprise, they're going to retire in the middle of the year. You know, and they may not have wanted to. You might be able to help your people and hold them harmless because you've got good people and you don't want to lose them. But you won't be able to do it long as a system. January 2024, we spent that much locally to try to keep from losing our people in the middle of the year. Because, you know, it's never good. You can say it any way you want to. It's, you hate to lose a principal in the summer. Okay? You hate to lose that. You hate it. Good or bad, whether it's a problem that needs to be addressed or if they're going out on a positive, it's tough on the school. But you want to compound it, do it in the middle of the year. Whether it's a problem or not compounded. I know we've dealt with it happening. Middle of the year, you don't want, so we spent this amount of money in January 24, and we spent this amount of money in January 25. Trying to take care of employees. We can't keep doing that. And neither can any other school system. You know, people sometimes say, man, there's no mystery, the board knows it. They know I was in Wake for a long time. Other people probably know it too. Wake and Charlotte don't really have any more money than we do. No one's got money just sitting around. It's all relative to the number of kids you got. So I just put this on your radar because, and this is not, I'm sure whoever was behind this might be gritting their teeth right now. I'm not trying to upset anybody. But I am telling you, if you can't get the right principal in school, you're not going to get the right teachers. You're not going to keep the right teachers. You're not going to build the culture of your school that you need on the kids. The kids really run the school. Now that sounds bizarre. You don't want to hear that from me. The kids really run the school. You get your parameters, you set your culture, you keep your culture strong and your parameters strong, you let your kids go, you let them grow up. So, one other piece of this that doesn't affect the Randolph County school system, but I'm going to tell you, it bothers me. And this is one of the things when I look at this salary schedule, and I say, is there anything wrong with this? Well, before I can even get past the first glance at it, I've got a problem with it. I don't want to see my people lose money. Now, granted, don't you think you're excited if you go, what if you go from, what if you go base to exceeded? You're probably excited, but you're probably not sleeping well because you're thinking, wait a minute, next year's a new day, and it's going to be September before I know anything. And I don't have time to look for another job, you know, or, uh-oh, I can't. And then here's the thing, we know the retirement system, the best 4 consecutive years, right? Or what you get based your retirement on. Well, some people may be saying, and see, I'm in disagreement. I disagree. We need teachers to stay 40 years. We need teachers to stay 40 years.
Some of
We need them to stay. We need teachers to stay 40 years. We need them to stay 50 years because what you need is you need Betty Buffington and Barbara Blaylock, who came up to this young guy that was 23 years old and said, "You're not going to fail." And only one of them was my mentor. Betty Buffington's my mentor. If I didn't have Betty Buffington and Barbara Blaylock, I had Joe Lapp, I had Mark Schinkelberg. You need these teachers to coach. Not necessarily tell them how to teach. Coach and help them learn the environment, learn what school's about as a teacher. But here's the thing that really, another little thing that gets me is, you're talking to a principal that had 2,600 kids on his campus, had 800 student cars, 50 buses, wound up with 50 trailers, was at school twice, but the salary schedule says, oh, the biggest school we're going to recognize is the one that's 1,600. When we get to 1,600, we're going to stop. We're not going to pay for any other growth. Now, granted, Dave, you know this, we don't have anybody that big, and I don't think we will. Well, we might. Who knows what happens if it starts growing. But, really? We're only going to recognize school sizes. We're going to stop at 1,600? And my 2,600 kid school was not the biggest high school out there. We got some over 3,000. And I'm not being critical of somebody with 800 kids or 1,600 kids, but there's a big difference in the challenges between 1,600 and 2,600. We had to run traffic out in 2 lanes one way every day. We'd never emptied the campus. I still can't believe what I used to do. I'd walk out the middle of State Road and stop traffic so our buses could get out. Now I know that if I'd have been hit, I'd been on my own and, you know, didn't have any authority to do that. So the state patrols here, I don't think they can charge me now. I don't know, it's been a long time. But I'm just saying to you, there's some problems with this salary schedule. And if I could go anywhere with it, I'd say, we can't do this as families.
So, Doc, I mean, are you proposing a bonus model versus this? I mean,
Well, here's what
because we can't say hold you harmless if we're trying to give you something for excelling.
Well, it's funny you say bonus. Because when this first came out, it was all this. And then I got in a meeting about 3 years later, and the person called me out and said, Stephen, we told you from the beginning it's a bonus. Okay? Well, last time I looked, you don't take retirement out of bonuses. When you take retirement out of all this money, don't we? So, I don't want principals going backwards, but personally, I did like the ABC model. I personally did. Because it kept people, you know, when we're out here trying to build culture and build continuity and all this, we had just as many principals. I went to my first school in Burlington, hadn't had growth in a long time when I got there. We got growth, and then we got growth again. And people were excited. And once they saw they could get growth, it was a whole different place. So, I don't know, Mr. Craven, I just know this in permanent salary can't keep on. Because all you're going to do is you're creating a situation where you're getting principals who get to 27 years and enough sick leave to retire. And we don't need them retired. We don't need them retired. Or they get hit 1 year and they say, okay, the only way I can get my retirement back is to stay 4 more years, and they weren't planning on staying 4, they were planning on staying 3 more. Now we're losing them. So I'm talking as a principal. And I'm talking about how I would feel if I was in that seat. Yeah, we were a very high-performing school. High school I was principal of. And we became a high-performing school, middle school I was principal of. But when I look up and I see somebody, now this is the low end. This is somebody that's at the smallest school. But if you go from the middle column to the left, and you're in the biggest school, you're 1,600 or more, and I've said that to you, so I'm not going to go there again. $9,700? I mean, that's not, how about down here? This is huge. This is huge.
Dr. Gaines, like this past year, explain, like, so, like, where I can understand it, which I get it, but where they can use a school, for example, like John Lawrence, with the principal there, like last year, they really jumped a lot, right? Like growth, and then this year, was that when it was kind of slowed? I mean, there's still growth, but he took a hit. Explain
Well,
exactly.
it can be, you can have,
how did
you
that-
can have growth, but not enough to meet the cut for growth
Right.
we recognize as net.
They were still, would look, I
You
mean,
can, so what that told me was we must have had at the 3-4 cutoff in that school, no, 2-3 cutoff, we must have had kids, a lot of kids jumped to level 3, which is counted proficient, but they didn't jump enough to count for growth. So you can have that. You can have a
see,
school.
that's what I was saying, you know, okay. I'm using that principle because we had a conversation. I mean, they were all upbeat, you know, hey, we're doing, things are looking good. Because, you know, it's getting more and more tougher, especially in the public schools because, I mean, things have changed. We're so diverse. I mean, it's just a total different world. I mean, you can go to like one part, I'm in Archdale, Trinity. You can go to like Archdale Elementary School and, I mean, it's like 5 or 6 miles from one place to the other part of Archdale. And you may have probably 70% somewhere. They're not tough. It's almost impossible to ever perform correctly. Then you can go to a school right down the street and you get a totally different, because the people there is totally different neighborhoods. And then you can go to another school about 6 miles this way, and you're always going to be higher up because the bigger neighborhoods, a little more money, they all, and that is just, but I mean, I guess all those principles are really good principles. And you can put any one of those principles in that school that's going to perform, and they do great, but they're backed in a corner.
Well, here's the other piece. You just hit it nail on the head. You want somebody to go to a school and help turn it around. But they may not, if they think about this. Or what if they're in the end and you're trying to get them to turn something around, they may be thinking, oh, I'm about done. And then they look at the results and say, wait a minute, I can't keep it focused. And I will say this to you. I said 11.2. We had one, that one, the 11.2 was, I think, 2 years ago. We had one improve their proficiency by 12.2 in 23, 24 and didn't get growth. You take a school up 12 points and not get growth. But Dave, you're looking at that because if I guarantee you, and I never looked, there's a bunch of kids right here jumping over the cut to level 3. But they weren't jumping far enough away from where they were to get the growth measure and the accountability people.
But everybody in this room recognizes moving to
The accountability people right now are back there cringing, thinking, I don't know what he's going to say next. But that's my interpretation of it. Beth Davis got her head buried, and Meredith looking at the corner of the seat. So Dave, you asked that. It's almost like Ms. Gailey, you said, if we do something with EC, we got to have a held harmless or a baseline, right? We can't keep doing this to principals. Because what we're going to wind up with, we're going to wind up with no principals. We're going to wind up with, and if principals are no different than teachers, we need the veteran principals to put their arms around people who are new to it. Because they'll say, you know, you're going to see a lot of things the first 6 months. There's a distinct difference. Even a principal goes on to be great. You can watch them. Andre, we've watched them, and when we've watched them, those first 6 months compared to their next 3 years, it's so different when they get that rhythm of, hey, they've gone from being an AP, and they tried to do all their AP job, and they realize, no, I got to be a principal too. It happens, does it not? Because these two were as great as they were too. They knew what they were doing. That's why they're in these roles. Because I got to have somebody that can relate to principals when they get in those ruts. So we can't afford to have our veteran principals going out the door. And that's, we can't afford our young principals to get going and not finish their careers either. Let me,
Hey, where did that, you know where that came from, as far as what was the thinking behind that?
I'll defer to Senator Gailey, who was chair of head of programs.
I was like, just like for that pay scale, what was the thinking behind it as far as, you know, as far as this is what we want, bonus, if you want to call it bonus or whatever, for pay teachers or principal?
I think that predates me, I wasn't part of that discussion, but I think it's that, we're told very vigorously that growth is a better measure of a teacher or a principal's success than proficiency or academics, because the students bring so many issues with them from home, and the algorithm measures their progress, and so that is a good way to say what is working, and you want to, I think Senator Craven was saying, you want to reward, give a bonus to people who are doing a good job and create incentives for people to increase their performance. And so that's why the measure would be tied to growth, because we're told by educators that the growth of the two is the more important measure of student success. And so you want to incentivize people to do a good job and to try to do it.
you're saying the key thing, you said bonus.
Right.
This is people's salary.
No, I understand that
And
distinction.
that's, I mean, that has ramifications. So I agree with you, the growth piece has been out there. It's just, when you start, you know, we could debate that. One of the things is, I'm gonna go back, way back. I'm gonna go way back to something that I don't think any of y'all dealt with in legislature. Tenure for teachers. Okay? It used to be tenure for principals, did you know that? Principals used to have tenure, you know that? You know that, Dave? Yeah, principals used to have tenure. In fact, when I left to come here, we still had a couple in the system I was in when I was doing assistant superintendent for HR, and every year I'd get ready for contract. So where's your contract? How did we miss that? And I realized, oh, this is one of them. Okay? So principals used to have tenure. There was a big discussion about teachers. But we gotta address the issues and not swipe across to everybody, in my opinion. You know, whether teachers have tenure or not, if they don't do right, then we have to deal with it. But some of the measures that were done, so that started the high standards, Mr. Burgess. The standards aren't where they need to be. There was plenty of tenured teachers that were dealt with from what I saw. And what I did HR. I did that for 5 years. I mean, now, there's a process, but just so we start talking about standards, we can talk about standards, and it got very competitive, Mr. Burgess. It got to be, we don't do this, we won't have people performing. I don't know where that whole piece came from with all that, but I don't think it's promoting, it's not, growth is a big issue, but I don't think that's solving it. I think that's sending some of our best principals home in 30 years, or soon they get 30, as they get there. That's what I think it's doing.
Okay, I think it started when several years ago, the principal's salary, you know, everybody was talking about competition and how much they're falling behind versus other states around us. But then, instead of having a bonus attached to the previous salary schedule, they created this as an incentive, instead of having like an arbitrary bonus given, you know, yearly or something. Then they attached this to it, and they removed that arbitrary bonus though, and they changed the salary schedule.
But don't you think this, I can remember, this starting like back before, Jerry Tillman, back when he was like maybe 3 years before, it seemed like the big thing was talking about which unit of principals, you know, like what can we do more for principals, and but somewhere along the way, I think they forgot about playing with the cards you're dealt. I mean, you it's a different hand now than it used to be.
Well,
It is.
No, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I think all of us would say conceptually, when you first look at that, somebody in our shoes went, that's a great way to reward our principals.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking
You
back
can see it,
now,
yeah.
we're seeing what really happens, that nobody in that room felt like would be the
Yeah, I
outcome.
couldn't back before that, but I.
And so I appreciate y'all sharing that with us, because that's something we need
I
to be
think
sharing
it
with
was
other folks.
2017.
That's back
I-
in that.
This is a national thing.
I'll just tell you, Mr. Craven, I love
It's not just
the presidentship. I love what it's about. I love where it can reach. And what I do get worried about is the unintended consequences of that. I'm not saying anybody, I just think if we don't put it out there, we're gonna wind up with things, even parents don't want. They're gonna wonder why that wonderful principal's no longer around, where that's, they go to another state.
You'll let him send us some suggestions, Mr. Chairman? I said, can we get some suggestions from the superintendent?
That's all right. Well, that's why this is so important though, to come out with something like this. It's helpful, because some of that stuff you guys would have not known if you hadn't.
Well, and it's not just Randolph County that's having this issue.
Yeah, I know it's not,
It's
but I can tell you,
everybody.
Are the
Hey,
charter
back-
schools principals paid off this scale?
you know, back when we
Charter
used
school
to do
principals
this,
paid this way?
I do not think so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
there's a lot of things.
Two different roles for different people.
So I wanna
I said,
share,
well, if you went and took money from the charter school principals, I bet you'd have problems there tonight, so.
I wanna share,
But I will
share two other things with you, because these are brief, but I want to really brag on something we're doing locally here. That this board, you need to know what this board's doing, and the commissioners, so, one thing, K-3 class size rule came into place in 1718. That time, prior to it, the class size limit was 21 for grades K-3. Andre deals with this all the time, Marty deals with this, all the directors deal with this. Don't really know where it came from, but what I can tell you is it's no mystery. When you do what's in place now, you're pushing more positions to grades K-3, and you're pushing class size for 412 through the roof. And parents, I've been asked that, it's stirred up again. Why are my grade 4 and 5 class size as big as they are? Why is my kid's 6th grade class as big as it is? So, I don't know, but I would not be doing my job not to put that on there. This is still a concern. I didn't hear anybody complain about 21 in the class. That's a nice size class, and Ms. Farlow sitting here as the former kindergarten teacher, she may say, I'm going to get you when this is over, because 21 kindergarten is too many. But you know, we did the K-3 class size rule, it went like this. If I'd have put it together, I would have thought that would have been kindergarten. We put the biggest number in kindergarten. So I don't know there.
What's our biggest size for like 4th, 5th, and like what's our biggest?
Oh, I hope we
size?
don't have a 4th or 5th grade class more than 33. We went down that path
Well, what's
last
the most
year.
you could have?
There's no limit.
Oh, there's no limit.
4th through 12, there's no limit. But now, I'm not asking for a 412 limit because that's going to take more positions. I would love there to be, but y'all got to put up a bunch more positions. But going from here down to those numbers is really putting a tough deal on our high school, middle school, and grade 4 and 5. The last thing on the list today that I want to share with you is textbook money. Again, I'm not doing my job. And I know textbook money can be used some other ways other than a hard copy textbook. But, and this is on your sheet, that's how much money we received in textbook money for my time. And interesting enough, you could see the story coming out. That's how much the school system received 2 years later in textbook money. That's way back. So you can see the story coming out. Now you see it later got up to 734. I gave you those numbers. But now this year, 24, 25, down to 560. So we're headed back in the direction we went. So that's kind of like the technology money. These are resources there is flexibility how you can use that. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. Because I just heard Ms. Whitaker, parent school system, yeah, the hard copy textbook, but there's also electronic textbooks, there's electronic resources we need that for, but I don't know how you can explain, it's almost like we lost half our kids here, for it to go from here to here, or even that one right there, $31,000 for 1 year.
Wasn't that the year that the teachers were being furloughed? Wasn't that the terrible times when?
Well, that was in the recession.
Yeah, the recession.
The recession started when I got in HR, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was a whole lot of fun, so that might have been that, but it's just, it looks unusual there, it does, but even that is tough.
Yeah, 08, 09 was worse.
So, any questions, board members, y'all have anything else on this y'all want to share? Because I do want to take a moment out of privilege and share something with you for you to take back to Rob, okay? And I want to share a little bit about this history here, because this what I'm getting ready to give you is one of the proudest things I've been involved in, and the two guys right there, Ray Chilton and Marty Trotter, and Ray Kaiser, who's not with us. Ray was involved in starting that. This all started from sitting at the desk in the office building over there. I asked Marty somewhere in 13, 14 year when he was doing operations, I said, and I know I'm probably leaving somebody out, Marty, and Larry, I'm not trying to, but I said, do you have a list of things that you've got planned? Remember this, Marty? Like roofs and all? Oh, yeah. And I said, what about we put something together? They went to town. Last time I saw them, they came back with something. And so my concern was our commissioners, what if we asked them for some money and they said, well, you want $750,000, we can give you $100,000, let's see what you would use it for. Well, they went down, they gave estimated costs. So here we roll. This hit live today in January of 2014, the first time we all met with the commissioners in here. We shared, it's called a 9-year plan, but the interesting thing about this plan, and I'm holding it tight because I'm pretty proud of this, but the interesting thing about this plan was we revised it in January of 19, focused on 6 through 9, and then we said, we got to go 10 through 18. We're not going to be done. Well, I mean, we got other things to do. But what happened was you had staff that said, we got hit in May of 18 at Eastern Randolph Chiller System went out exams, 120,000. Exams were starting. We got the last portable chiller on the East Coast of the United States. Came in Eastern Randolph. We thought we survived the bullet. And then, this is leadership for you right here. They said nothing to me. Got the bill paid. And then we thought we survived the bullet. And then July of 18, we were ready to start school, and all of a sudden Dennis Hamilton calls from Randall High School. He says, a little warm over here. Yeah, it was warm. The chillers were gone there, and that was 111,000. And so that's when staff said, let's take this apart. We don't have any HPC. So when you see this, you may see some years that don't have all the way full. You may have HVAC and no school beside it, because we got some placeholders. Because when we did this, we took 9 year off the title, and now we just call it facility upgrade repair plan. But I want you to have this because this started with the commissioners. And so I want to reiterate something to you. I didn't come in here today to tell you what you've been doing wrong or right. Because I don't sit right. I came here to show you some things we have concerns about. That's why the top says concerns. But the first year, we asked for this amount of money from the commissioners. But with our 450, we were pulling out of our budget. Because every year it's about 1.2 million. They couldn't give us but 250,000, and we said, thank you. We'll roll with 700,000 next year. As the next year went, I heard they liked it. And so the next year they gave us 500,000 more. So with our money, we started the 15-16 school year with 1.2 million in recurring money. That was a big day. And we rolled on for 3 years. We asked for another 100,000. They gave it to us. So they're at 750 recurring. Go 3 years. We said, hey, inflation, can you help us? They got us to 850. A couple of years later, we have $950,000 recurring money. This is not regular ADM for the capital outlay money. This is a special capital outlay. We've done roofs, we've done windows, we've done doors, we've done HVAC, stadium seats, stadium lights, auditorium seats, and I'm just gonna say this to you. I'm gonna say it just one time, because I'm sure people are gonna like what I'm gonna say. I think it's not the right word, but I get bothered when our commissioners help us put this together, and the funding, and I look up and other school systems are turf fields all over the state. And we've taken every blue bleacher out of our stadiums. That was one of the things, Eastern Randolph was first, and we gutted the stadium Southwest High, that no one complained about. Kent Community made it just do the best they could. We took the wood bleachers off the side, the visitor side, the Trinity High. We replaced stadium lights, we replaced Eastern Randolph's auditorium seats. So I'm pretty proud of this, because I know what you get hit with, and we try to stay out of that. We've got some needs here, you know that. We've got track needs, we've got tennis court needs. We've got a need now of an issue that we're dealing with at a particular school, another need that you've got, Mr. Biggs, you've got it. But I just want you to see this, because to me, this right here, there's a lot of things go on. So this was about as big a teamwork effort as I've seen in a long time. And so when we started this, just so you know, Marty, do you remember this? We said publicly, if you help us, because the whole plan was worth $11,689, $470. That was the first 9 years. And we said to them, help us, and they got us. We called this, remember we kept calling it our skin in the game, remember that? This is what we said, we'll figure out the difference at the end. But we got 9 years to figure it out. Now we're in year 11, and we'll get the year 18, will be 2031, 2032 school year. So I wanted you to have this. You can frame it, you can throw it away if you want to. I hope you won't, because this is where I believe in my heart that our commissioners did everything they could do. And here we are, a couple of years later, we're asking for another $100,000 that we could, if we get it, we'll get it to $1,050,000 a year or $1 million. I think that's what it is, Marty, is that right? $1,050,000, yeah. So I wanted you to have that. I don't want to, that's just something you can take with you and know that while we're talking about a bunch of state issues, I want you to know that we're working as hard as we can to use our local money as well as we can. I think you know that, but that's an example for you. So.
Hey, I was just curious, the board member says like 9-year plan, but all the legislators says Dr. Gainey's plan.
He doesn't say 9 year on top still, does he?
No,
Well, we took that off before. We tried to, we worked hard. We worked hard.
got a lot more before the beginning's plan.
So I will close and let the board members do whatever you need to, but here's what I want to tell you. Here's what I want to tell you. Thank you for coming. Because you got enough going on, and I can promise you we're going to use anything you give us wisely, public's money wisely, and we're not going to play games and ask you for things that we don't really need. There'll be none of that from our end, okay? You get something from us, you may not be able to do it, but it's not because we're just throwing stuff at the wall to see if it's it. And we try to do that with our commissioners too, because I believe everybody involved in the budget process has to be in a position to be successful. Or else it's not going to work over time. And you do it another way, and you might get what you want 1 year, and you might go cold for 5 years, and you might have backed somebody in the corner. So, anything from the board or staff or anything?
I think we can all agree Dr. Gainey will not spend your money. He spends it like it's his. I mean, honestly, he will not waste your money. We are living proof of that. We were able to pack a crackers
I know the spaghetti meal is coming up. We had a spaghetti meal with styrofoam plates, legislators, our first fall.
And let me just share this with you to show you how tight it really is. You guys will love this. So the school board has a conference, you know, like a meeting, and we were district meeting, and the year before I went, before he came to town, and you know, we had these big service trays. You were there when gold, you know, fancy stuff. I think it may have been in Alamance County. But anyway, so we were going to have it at our new high school at the time, Wheatmore High School. So I had no clue that they had allotted him, what was it, $18 per person?
I didn't either.
It was something like that. So we get to Wheatmore School, we have all these people there from all over the 5 counties. And so proud of our school, and we get to the meal. Had no clue. We go in the cafeteria, we have our staff serving. They're serving, at the time, you know, we've upgraded some, but our spaghetti was Chef Boyardee at best then. So we had it on paper plates, we had plastic forks, we had a little styrofoam, all organized by the man right there. And I heard, I mean, here we are sitting, oh my gosh, I look, you're not sitting together that night. I said, he has blown us with big time. And you know, all these things, and I was like, people saying, I can't believe this, I can't believe this. We paid to have a good meal. This is, he didn't know, I mean, it was new, you know. But
Harry, you forget the side of corn that came with it.
yes, he was exactly right. But I mean, it's best we had
Applesauce.
we never let it do that.
Well, see, my thought was, I thought I had been set up. My first thing I had to do was feed them. Beverly's not in here now, but when that happened, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. The first month I'm here, I've gotta have all these people to feed them.
We have to do that like 4 milk.
Yeah, we haven't been asked to serve that meal in a
Here's your cup.
But thank y'all for coming. Thank you.
It means a lot. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And I know somebody changed their plans today. I may do more than one, you guys or whoever did, but we certainly, that means a lot that you did that. And, you know, it's great to have a group like you guys who like open doors. Thank you. And we'll pray for you to put up with this guy here, but I told him I pray for him to put up with you.